My name's Jack Miller, and I'm 45 years old. Up until 47 days ago, I thought I had a pretty decent life. Married to Linda for 9 years, stepdad to her daughter Kaylee, who's 17 now. We had a little house on Maple Street, a scruffy tabby cat named Whiskers, and a routine that felt solid, even if it wasn't perfect. I'm a plumber by trade, been wrenching pipes since I was 19, and I was good at it. Worked for a company that did big jobs, like fixing water mains for the city. That's where it all went to hell. It was a Tuesday, cold enough that my breath hung in the air while I was on site. We were replacing a busted main under 4th Avenue, a job we'd been at for days. I was down in the trench, double-checking a fitting, when I heard this groan, like metal giving up. Looked up just in time to see the pipe rig above me buckle. No time to move. Next thing I know, I'm flat on my back, arm pinned under a chunk of steel, chest screaming, and I can't breathe right. The crew hauled me out, and I remember the paramedics shouting about a collapsed lung before everything went black. Woke up in the hospital, hooked to machines that beeped like they were mad at me. My right arm was smashed, broken in 3 places, 2 ribs cracked, and that lung had a hole in it. Doc said I was lucky to be alive. Didn't feel lucky, doped up on pain meds, floating in and out of consciousness. That first night's fuzzy, but I remember grabbing the phone by my bed and calling Linda. My voice was weak, raspy from the tubes they'd down my throat. Told her I was messed up bad, said not to bring Kaylee, cause I didn't want the kid seeing me like that, all bandaged and bruised, looking half dead. Linda sounded distracted, said she'd come by first thing tomorrow. I believed her. Shouldn't have. Morning came, gray light sneaking through the blinds. No Linda. I figured she got held up. Maybe Kaylee had school stuff, or Linda's shift at the diner ran late. She's a waitress, works odd hours. I let it slide. Day 2, still nothing. Called her that evening, heard some loud game show blaring on her end. You coming tomorrow? I asked, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. Yeah, I'll try, she said, like it was no big deal. Day 3 rolled around, and I'm still alone, staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the little dots to keep my mind off the pain. By day 5, I wasn't just annoyed, I was worried. Not about us, but about her. Had she crashed her car? Was Kaylee hurt? I asked a nurse, a short lady with kind eyes, if my wife had called. She checked the log, shook her head. No calls, Mr. Miller. That's when the doubts started creeping in, but I shoved them down. Linda's busy, I told myself. She's got a teenager and a job. She'll show up. Except she didn't. 1 week turned into 2. The nurses started giving me these looks, pity mixed with something else, like they knew something I didn't. One of them, Maria, stuck out. She was 36, had dark hair pulled back tight, and she'd sit with me sometimes during her breaks. Never asked why my wife wasn't there, but I could see it in her face, the question hanging unspoken. She'd bring me an extra juice cup, or tell me about her kids' soccer games, just filling the silence. I appreciated it more than I let on. 3 weeks in, they moved me out of intensive care to a regular room. My arm was in a heavy brace, ribs taped up, lung still healing slow. I'd gotten Linda on the phone twice by then short, rushed calls. First time, she said Whiskers had a hairball issue. Second time, it was a clogged sink. Always something. I'll come soon, she'd say, then hang up fast. I stopped counting on it. Couldn't sleep that night, kept thinking about our 9th anniversary 2 months back. We'd gone to this Italian place Linda liked. She barely talked, kept checking her phone. I asked if she was okay. She smiled real quick and said, yeah, Jack, everything's fine. Why wouldn't it be? I'd shrugged it off then. Now, lying in that hospital bed, it felt like a neon sign I'd been too dumb to read. My brother Tom was the one keeping me sane. He's 43, a mechanic with a beat-up pickup and a heart bigger than his head. Showed up almost every day, bringing me meatloaf or mashed potatoes from his wife, Carol. Kept me posted on Whiskers. Cat was fine, by the way, just shedding like crazy. One afternoon, he stayed longer than usual, shifting in the plastic chair by my bed. Finally, he said, Jack, you want me to call Linda? Figure out what's going on. I looked at him, saw the worry in his eyes. What's that mean? I asked. He rubbed his neck, uncomfortable. She hasn't been here once, man. It's been 28 days. That ain't right. Something snapped in me then, not anger, more like a dam breaking. I'd been pretending it was all normal, that Linda had reasons. But Tom's words ripped that lie wide open. I took a deep breath, wincing as my ribs complained. Check our bank account, I said. Something's off. I can feel it. He nodded, didn't argue. 2 days later, he brought my tablet, sat with me while we logged in. What I saw made my head spin. $8,000 gone over the past month. Cash pulled from ATMs all over town, a couple transfers to some account I didn't recognize, and a fat charge at a sporting goods store, $400. Linda hates outdoor stuff. Says it's all bugs and dirt. My heart was pounding so hard a nurse poked her head in, asked if I was okay. I waved her off, staring at the screen. That night, I called Linda again. She picked up, chewing loud, probably eating dinner. I kept it simple. When you coming to see me? She sighed, long and dramatic. Jack, the hospital's 50 minutes away. Gas is almost $6 a gallon, and I'm swamped here. Kaylee's got school. The house is a mess. Everything's on me. I bit my tongue, then said, Tom offered to drive you. So did Carol. And we had money for gas. Least we did before you started pulling cash out. Silence. Then she hit me with it. You're not worth the trip, Jack. Get better or don't. But I'm tired of this half-alive crap. I made some sound, half gasp, half choke, and she started backtracking, saying she was stressed, didn't mean it. Too late. Kaylee grabbed the phone then. We don't need you, she said, voice sharp like she'd rehearsed it. Mom's friend Rick's been helping out. Rick. The guy who moved in next door last year. Tall, loud laugh, always offering to mow our lawn or fix stuff when I was working late. I didn't say a word, just hung up. Sat there in the dark, machines humming, feeling like the floor dropped out from under me. 9 years with Linda, 8 raising Kaylee, and this is what I got. A wife who wouldn't visit, a stepdad who didn't care, and some neighbors stepping into my life. I didn't sleep that night. Just stared out the window at the parking lot lights, wondering how I'd been so blind. Next morning, Maria brought me coffee instead of juice. Rough one? She asked, nodding at my untouched breakfast. I didn't plan to, but I told her everything: Linda, Kaylee, Rick, the money. She listened, didn't flinch, just nodded slow. When I finished, she said, some people show their true colors when things are good. Others wait till it's bad. Guess you found out which kind you married. Her words stuck, rattling around in my head. That's when I knew I couldn't stay there, waiting for nothing. I had to move, and fast. After that call with Linda and Kaylee, I didn't sleep. Just lay there in that hospital bed, the machines buzzing like a swarm of pissed-off bees, my mind running circles around 9 years of marriage and 8 years of playing stepdad. The words kept echoing, Linda saying I wasn't worth the trip, Kaylee's cold, we don't need you, and that name, Rick, sitting there like a splinter I couldn't dig out. Morning came slow, the kind of gray dawn that makes everything feel heavier. Maria, the nurse who'd been my lifeline, rolled in with my meds and a coffee instead of the usual juice. She took one look at my untouched tray, cold eggs and limp toast, and raised an eyebrow. Rough night, huh? I didn't mean to unload, but it came spilling out. Told her about Linda not showing up once in 28 days, the bank account bleeding $8,000, that call where my wife wished I'd hurry up and die or heal, and Kaylee piling on with Rick in the background. Maria didn't blink, just leaned against the wall, arms crossed, listening like she'd heard worse. When I ran out of steam, she nodded slow and said, people can hide who they are when life's smooth. Takes a storm to show you the real them. Sounds like you got hit with a hurricane. I didn't have a comeback, just stared at the coffee cup in my hands, letting her words sink in. She was right. I'd been too busy fixing pipes and paying bills to see the cracks in my own house. That day, I stopped waiting for Linda to show. Stopped hoping she'd call with some excuse I could swallow. My brother Tom came by in the afternoon, hauling a plastic container of Carol's lasagna, still warm, smelling like home. He set it on the tray table, then sat down, his work boots scuffing the floor. You look like hell, he said, blunt as always. Talked to Linda last night, I replied, poking at the lasagna with a plastic fork. His eyebrows shot up. And I told him everything, the call, the money, Rick. Tom's face went hard, jaw tight like he wanted to punch something. She said that? And Kaylee too? Jesus, Jack. He paused, then added, what's the play here? Good question. I didn't know yet, but I couldn't stay in that hospital bed, rotting while Linda and Rick played house with my life. Need to get out, I said. Early. Before she cleans us out completely. Tom frowned. Docs won't like that. Your arm's still a mess, and you can barely stand. He wasn't wrong. My right arm was locked in a brace from elbow to wrist, bones knitting slow. Ribs ached every breath, and my lung was only half cooperative. I tried standing that morning with a walker, made it 3 steps before the room spun. But staying felt like giving up. Don't care. I told him. I'll figure it out. Tom didn't push, just nodded. All right. What do you need? I thought for a second. Check the house when she's not around. Grab my papers, birth certificate, social security card, whatever's in the desk. And keep an eye on that bank account. Something's fishy. He agreed, said he'd swing by tomorrow while Linda was at the diner. Before he left, he hesitated, then asked, you sure you're okay, man? This is heavy. I forced a half smile. Not okay yet, but I will be. Just need to move. Next couple days were a haze of painkillers and planning. Maria turned into my unofficial coach. During her break, she sat with me, going over what leaving early would take. It's called against medical advice, she said, sipping her own coffee. You sign some papers, say you know the risks, and you're out. But Jack, your arm's not healed. Infection could set in, or worse. I nodded, soaking it in. What did I need at home? She listed it off: crutches or a cane, bandages, a way to keep the brace dry in the shower, someone to check on me. Said she knew a guy who rented medical gear cheap, gave me his number. Even wrote down a home nurse service. You're stubborn as hell, she said, almost smiling. Guess that's why you're still kicking. By day 36, I was done waiting. Tom had come through, dropped off a stack of papers from my desk, plus a duffel with some clothes and my old laptop. Said Linda's car was gone when he went by, but Rick's truck was in our driveway at noon on a Wednesday. She's supposed to be working, he added, voice tight. I didn't react, just filed it away. Checked the bank account again, another $1,000 gone, plus a charge for ski rentals up at Pine Ridge. Linda hates snow, says it's cold and miserable. Rick, though, he's the type. Loves showing off his gear. That's when it hit me, this calm I hadn't felt since the accident. Not peace, exactly, but clarity. Linda wasn't just checked out, she was moving on, and I was the loose end. I called her one more time, day 40. She picked up, sounding annoyed. Yeah, Jack? I kept it light. How you holding up? When you coming by? She huffed. I'm swamped. Kaylee's got cheer practice, Whiskers scratched up the couch, and I'm pulling doubles. Hospital's too far. I didn't mention the money or Rick, just said, all right, let me know. Hung up before she could say more. Then I got to work. Told the staff not to give Linda any updates if she called. She hadn't, and wouldn't. Used Tom's phone to call that medical supply guy Maria hooked me up with. Ordered a cane, a shower chair, some waterproof sleeves for the brace. Set up a nurse to check in twice a week. Tom found me a spot, the Pinewood Inn on Route 12, a cheap extended stay joint with a kitchenette and no stairs. Booked it for a month, open-ended. Day 47, I was ready. Docs fought me hard. The head guy, Dr. Patel, sat me down for 20 minutes, listing risks, blood clots, infection, lung collapse. You're not stable yet, Mr. Miller, he said, glasses fogging up from talking so fast. You leave now, you're rolling the dice. I looked him square in the eye. Staying's a bigger gamble. I'm done here. He sighed, handed me the against medical advice forms. I signed every line, my hand shaky but sure. Maria stopped by as I packed my bag, one-handed, slow as hell. You're crazy, you know that, she said, but her tone was soft. Take care of yourself, Jack. Call if you need anything. I nodded, grateful. Thanks, Maria. For everything. Tom pulled up in his pickup at noon, seats folded flat so I could stretch out my bad arm. I hobbled out on the walker, cane tucked under my good arm, a nurse trailing me with my bag. Climbed in, wincing as my ribs protested. Tom shut the door gentle, like I might break. Where to? He asked, starting the engine. I watched the hospital shrink in the side mirror, all white walls and sterile lights. Pinewood Inn, I said. Not home. Not yet. He glanced over. How long you staying there? I thought about Linda, Rick, the missing money, 9 years unraveling. Long as it takes, I said. Got some things to settle. He smirked, just a little. You're cooking something up, aren't you? I didn't answer, just stared out the window as we pulled onto the highway. Yeah, I was cooking something. Operation Clear Out was just getting started. The Pinewood Inn wasn't much to look at, a squat, 2-story building off Route 12 with peeling beige paint and a neon sign missing half its letters. But it was mine for now, a lifeline away from that hospital and the mess waiting back home. Tom helped me hobble up to room 108, ground floor like I'd asked, no stairs to wrestle with my busted arm and creaky ribs. Inside smelled like old carpet and cheap cleaner, but it had a bed, a kitchenette with a hot plate, and a little table by the window. Good enough. Tom set my duffel on the bed, the medical supply bag next to it, cane, shower chair, bandages all spilling out. You sure about this, Jack? He asked, eyeing the place like it might bite. Sure as I'm gonna be, I said. Thanks for the lift. That first night was rough. No nurses buzzing around, no machines beeping, just me and the hum of the mini fridge. My arm throbbed like someone was hammering it slow, and the pain meds barely dulled the edge. Couldn't sleep, so I flipped on the TV, some cooking show with a guy yelling about spices. Watched it till the sky turned pink, trying not to think about Linda, Kaylee, or Rick. Morning came, and Tom showed up with coffee strong enough to wake the dead and a bag of gas station donuts. Breakfast of champions, he said, tossing me a glazed one. I caught it left-handed, my good side, and we sat at that rickety table, him scrolling his phone, me staring at the crumbs. He broke the silence. Found something online. Linda posted on the neighborhood group page, said you're fighting for your life, and asked for prayers. Put up an old pic of you two from that late trip years back. I snorted, nearly choking on donut. Fighting for my life? She posted that 3 days after the accident, then nothing. Hasn't even called to check. Tom shook his head. She's got nerve, I'll give her that. I wiped sugar off my hands, feeling that calm from the hospital creep back. Yeah, she does. But I've got time now. Time to figure this out. Tom wanted me to call her right then. Blow it all up. Tell her I knew about the money, Rick, the whole damn show. Part of me itched to do it, let her hear the hurt and the heat in my voice. Maybe post it all online for the world to see. But Maria's words kept rattling in my head, something about revenge being patient, not just loud. So instead, I grabbed my phone, opened the Notes app, and started typing. Made a list, get a lawyer, lock down what's mine, track the money, open my own bank account, find a real place to live, get Whiskers back. Tom watched me, sipping his coffee. That's a start, he said. I'll dig up a lawyer for you. Know a guy from the shop who used one, real no-nonsense type. Next day, Tom came through. Brought a lawyer named Dan Carter to the motel. Dan wasn't what I pictured, no suit, just jeans and a flannel shirt, hauling a beat-up messenger bag. Looked more like he'd fix your car than fight in court, but he sat down, pulled out a legal pad, and got straight to it. Divorce or separation? He asked, pen hovering. I hadn't thought that far, but the word came easy. Divorce, I said. No question. He nodded, like he'd heard it 100 times. All right, Jack. Lay it out. Everything you've got. Took me 2 hours to tell it all. The accident, Linda's no-shows, the $8 grand gone, Rick's truck in my driveway, that call where she told me to die or heal quick. Showed him the bank statements Tom had printed, the ski rental charge, screenshots of Linda's fake little prayer post. Dan scribbled fast, letting out a grunt now and then. She hasn't visited once in 47 days, he asked, looking up. Not once, I said. And the money, the trips, this Rick. Guy, you're sure? I slid the papers over. Dead sure. He leaned back, tapping his pen. Here's the deal. State law says you get half of what's yours in a marriage. House, accounts, all that. But we need proof of what's there before she hides it. She's already moving cash, could be trouble if we don't act fast. That night, I couldn't sleep again, not the pain this time, but the gears turning. Linda thought I was still in the hospital, doped up and clueless. She didn't know I'd checked out, didn't know I was on to her and Rick. That was my edge, and I wasn't about to waste it. Next morning, I ordered a burner phone online, cheap, prepaid, shipped to the motel. Then I texted Linda from my regular phone. Docs say I'm stuck here longer. Signal's bad. I'll call when I can. She sent back a single word. Okay. Not even a full sentence. Cold as ice. Over the next week, I got to work. Tom went back to the house while Linda was at the diner, snapped pictures of every room, kitchen, bedroom, garage, even Kaylee's mess of a closet. Brought me a stack of stuff. My birth certificate, social security card, passport, some work shirts, and my spare laptop. Said Rick's truck was there again, mid-afternoon. I set up new accounts at a different bank, moved my paycheck direct deposit over, transferred half our savings, exactly half, like Dan said, no more, no less. Canceled our joint credit cards, got one in my name. Finding a place to live was trickier, couldn't drive, could barely walk, but I did virtual tours on the laptop. Landed on a one-bedroom apartment, ground floor, 20 minutes from Maple Street. Signed the lease online, paid the deposit from my new account. 2 weeks after leaving the hospital, I was getting around better. Swapped the walker for a cane, still slow, but moving. Linda called twice, short and sharp, always too busy to talk. I played along, said I was doing therapy, docs were happy. She bought it. Then Tom dropped a bomb. Heard from Carol, Linda's planning a weekend trip with her girlfriends. Some spa thing in Asheville, leaving Friday, back Sunday night. I sat up straighter, ignoring the twinge in my ribs. You serious? He grinned. Dead serious. Perfect, right? Perfect didn't cover it. I called a moving company that day, booked them for Saturday, paid extra for packing. Made a list of what was mine, stuff I'd owned before Linda, stuff we'd bought together to split, stuff that was hers alone. Dan checked it, tweaked a few things to keep it legal. Waiting was the killer. By Thursday night, I was pacing the motel room, hobbling, chewing over every what if. What if Linda canceled? What if Rick stayed behind? What if Kaylee didn't go? Friday morning, Tom drove by the house at dawn. Texted me, her car's gone. Saw a shuttle van loading bags. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Operation Clear Out was greenlit. Saturday, Tom picked me up at noon, my cane tapping the pavement as I climbed into his truck. The moving van was already there when we pulled up to Maple Street. For guys in coveralls, ready to roll. I had my keys, my list, and a fire in my gut I hadn't felt in years. Time to take back what was mine. Saturday hit like a freight train, and I was ready. Tom pulled us up to the house on Maple Street just as the moving van parked out front. For guys climbed out, all business in their faded coveralls, clipboards in hand. I leaned on my cane, feeling the ache in my arm and ribs, but it didn't matter. This was my shot. 9 years of building a life with Linda, and I was about to carve out what was mine. Tom handed me the house keys, gave me a look. You good, Jack? I nodded, jaw tight. Let's do this. Walking through that front door after 47 days away felt like stepping into someone else's world. The place smelled like lemon cleaner and something floral, too clean, too perfect. Linda never kept it this nice when I was around. Pictures of us still hung on the walls, smiling like nothing was wrong. Mail stacked neat on the kitchen counter, Kaylee's sneakers by the door. Then I heard it, paws thumping down the stairs. Whiskers, our tabby, barreled into me, yowling and rubbing against my legs. Nearly tripped me up, cane and all, but I bent down, slow, wincing, and scratched his ears. Hey, buddy, I said, voice catching. Missed you too. The movers got to work fast. I gave them my list, the recliner I'd bought before Linda, half the living room set we'd picked together, my tools from the garage, the old desk I'd refinished myself. Linda's stuff stayed, her fancy dishes, her clothes, that sewing machine she never used. Kaylee's room was harder. I'd been her stepdad since she was 8, helped her with spelling tests, built her that playhouse out back. Left most of it, but took the bike I'd gotten her 2 birthdays ago. Felt fair. The movers hauled stuff out quick, no chatter, just the thud of boots and the creak of furniture. Around 2 in the afternoon, Tom ordered subs, ham and cheese for me, extra pickles. We sat on the half-empty couch, eating off paper wrappers, Whiskers prowling around sniffing the crumbs. One of the movers, a big guy with a beard, asked, "Why some stuff staying?" I swallowed a bite, kept it simple. Splitting up. Taking what's mine. He nodded, didn't pry. By 5, the truck was loaded. I did a last walkthrough, cane tapping the hardwood. Stopped in the bedroom, saw our wedding picture on Linda's nightstand. Us grinning at some cheesy venue 9 years back. Left it there. Let her stare at it. The new apartment was a mess that night. Boxes everywhere, furniture shoved wherever it landed. Whiskers darted around, sniffing corners, confused but sticking close. Tom stayed late, setting up my bed, stacking essentials in the kitchen. "You did it, man," he said, clapping my good shoulder before he left. "Took your life back." I sat on the recliner after he was gone, Whiskers curled up beside me, and scrolled my phone. Linda had posted pics from her spa weekend, smiling with her girlfriends, sipping wine, hashtagging self-care and girls rule. Her house was half empty, and she didn't even know. I almost laughed. Sunday, I waited. Tom texted at 6 in the evening. "They're back. Brace yourself." At 7, my phone lit up. Linda, texting fast. "Where's my stuff, Jack? What the hell did you do?" Then calls, one after another. I let them ring, watched the screen flash. After the 5th, she left a voicemail. I played it, her voice shrill. "You can't just take everything. I'm calling the cops, you hear me?" I forwarded it to Dan, who texted back quick. "She's got nothing. We're clean, legal as it gets." I turned the phone off, leaned back, let Whiskers' purring fill the quiet. Monday morning, an email from Linda popped up. Subject: "Let's talk." Said she was upset, called my move drastic, asked me to call so we could fix this. No sorry, no nothing. Just her trying to steer the ship, like always. I didn't bite. Told Dan to send her a letter, laid out what I took, why, and slapped divorce papers on top. That afternoon, unpacking a box of tools, I found an old Father's Day card from Kaylee, back when she was 10. "Best stepdad ever," she'd scrawled in crayon. I sat there a long time, holding it, then tucked it away. Some things hurt too much to throw out. Linda didn't take it quiet. Tuesday, she blew up my phone again. Texts, calls, voicemails swinging from mad to pleading. "You're ruining us, Jack," one said. Then, "Come home, we can talk." I didn't answer. Dan said keep it through him now, so I did. Wednesday, Tom called, voice low. "She's parked outside your apartment. Been there an hour." I peeked through the blinds. Her blue sedan sat in the lot. Engine off, her silhouette hunched over the wheel. My stomach twisted. This was my space, my fresh start, and here she was, creeping in. She left after 2 hours, but dropped the package by my door. No label, just my name in her sharp handwriting. Inside was Whiskers' scratched-up cat tower, a photo of me and Kaylee at the zoo years back, and a note. I didn't read it, shoved it in a drawer. Couldn't deal with her words yet. Thursday, my burner phone buzzed. A number I didn't know. Picked it up, heard a shaky voice. "Jack? It's Kaylee." My chest tightened. "Hey, kid," I said, careful. "What's up?" She asked to see me. "Just us, no Linda. Said she'd come tomorrow after school." I paused. Her "we don't need you" still stung, but 9 years doesn't vanish. "All right," I said. "Promise me you won't tell your mom where I'm at." She swore it. Tom thought it was a setup, Linda pulling strings. "Be careful," he warned. Maybe he was right, but I had to know where Kaylee stood. She showed up Friday, right on time, in a jacket I'd bought her last winter. Stood in the doorway, eyes flicking over the boxes, the bare walls. Whiskers bolted to her, purring loud, and she knelt to pet him, hiding her face. We ended up on the tiny balcony, sipping root beers, watching cars roll by. She didn't talk at first, just kicked at the railing. Then it came out slow. "Mom's been with Rick for months, way before you got hurt. I heard them laughing about it, how your accident was convenient. She told me to say that stuff on the phone, Jack. Said it'd make you stop bugging us." Her voice cracked. I didn't want to. I sat there, letting it sink in. Linda playing puppet master, Kaylee caught in the middle. "Why tell me now?" I asked. She looked up, eyes wet. "When I saw the house empty, it hit me. Mom didn't care you were gone, just mad about the stuff. She's been on the phone with Rick, not even looking for you." I nodded slow. "Thanks for coming clean, kid." She stayed an hour, mostly petting Whiskers, then left quiet. That night, I cracked a beer, sat with her words. Linda hoping I'd die, using Kaylee to twist the knife. I'd missed the signs, her late nights, the friends I never met. Too late to fix, but not to fight. Next morning, Linda texted from a new number, must have swiped it from Kaylee's phone. "I know she saw you. Call me." I didn't. Told Dan instead. He said we were still solid, property split was by the book, and Linda's threats were empty. But she wasn't done. Sunday, Tom sent a video from his porch camera, he's 3 houses down. Linda, screaming in our front yard, arms flailing. He took it all, even the cat. Who does that? Whiskers flicked an ear at her voice, then went back to napping. I almost smiled. Monday, Linda called again, different number, calmer tone. "Jack, how's Whiskers? You healing okay?" Then silence, long enough I thought she'd hung up. "I'll tell you everything," she said finally. "No lies. You want to know?" I should have cut it off, but I needed answers. "Go ahead," I said. We talked 2 hours. She spilled it. Rick started 9 months before my accident. She'd planned to leave me, but then I got hurt. If I died, she'd cash my life insurance. If I lived, she'd have to split it all. So she stayed away, drained the accounts, set up with Rick. The ski rentals? His idea. She went along. When I didn't die, she panicked, pulled more cash. Rick dumped her the day after I moved out, said she was too much drama. Now she was alone, house half empty, Kaylee barely talking to her. "Why now?" I asked. She laughed, bitter. Rick's gone. I've got nothing left to lose. I didn't feel victory, just bone-deep tired. Dan's handling it from here, I said. We're done talking. Hung up, sat there with Whiskers, letting it settle. A week later, Kaylee asked to crash with me weekends. Said Linda was a mess, drinking, yelling, crying. I checked with Dan, legal gray area, but Linda agreed. Maybe guilt, maybe exhaustion. I fixed up the spare room, bed, lamp, space for her stuff. First weekend was stiff, both of us tiptoeing around the past. By the third, we had a groove, pizza Fridays, walks with Whiskers Sundays. Not father-daughter, but something new. Divorce moved slow. Linda fought the split at first, then gave up, signed it all. House went up for sale, proceeds to split even. Rest fell into place like Dan planned. One night, scrolling my phone, I saw Maria's name pop up on a friend suggestion, must have linked from our hospital chats. Messaged her, just a, hey, how's it going? She replied fast. Met for coffee a week later, nothing big, just catching up. She'd switched hospitals, was training for a half marathon. I told her about Whiskers, the apartment, Kaylee's visits. She listened close, like always. Said she ran a group for folks rebuilding after big injuries, physical and otherwise. I took the flyer, didn't promise anything. 2 weeks later, I went. Sat in a circle of strangers at some community center, all with scars or limps or stories like mine. Didn't talk much, just listened. Felt good, knowing I wasn't alone in the mess. 3 months after moving, life steadied. Arm healed, still stiff, no cane. Apartment looked lived in, Whiskers owned the windowsill. Linda texted sometimes, Kaylee stuff, practical junk. Civil, short. Rick? Heard he moved towns over, dodging the fallout. Good riddance. Divorce hearing came fast. Small courtroom, Linda across the aisle in a green dress I didn't know, hair perfect, smile fake. Judge ran through it quick, agreement checked, questions asked, pen scratched. Done in 20 minutes. 9 years, gone. Outside, Linda stopped me, handed me an envelope. It's that lake photo, she said. Thought you might want it. I took it, said thanks, walked off. Tossed it in a dumpster by the parking lot. Didn't need it. Kaylee kept coming weekends. Texted me after the hearing. We still on for pizza? I wrote back. Always, kid. You pick the toppings. That night, we sprawled on the couch, Whiskers between us, laughing at some dumb action flick. First real laugh in months, the kind that sneaks up and feels true. House sold a week later, Tom sent a pic of the sign. Felt like a footnote, not a finale. Physical therapy ended too, doc said I'd beat the odds, healed fast. I said it was spite. She said grit. Maybe both. Maria and I kept coffee going 5 times, then a diner run. Last weekend, she came over, brought a kite she'd made with her nephew. We took Kaylee to the park, flew it till the string snapped, all of us laughing as it sailed off. No rush, just easy. Linda faded, text rare, about mail or taxes. I answered, kept it clean. Life settled. Me, Kaylee, Whiskers, a job I could still do, a friend in Maria. Someone asked if I'd redo Operation Clear Out. Nah, I said. It was messy, but it got me here, standing on my own, not looking back. That's enough.